50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite-level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the E.T. Stand Podcast. Welcome to the E.T. Stand Sharks Fans Podcast. It's a bye week. It's a bit of a rest week for us. We're thinking what is actually going to happen this week. We're a little underprepared, so it's just going to be a pretty relaxed show for us. I'm not even wearing Sharks merch. I'm wearing a Boca Juniors football jersey straight off the soccer field. Chris Kelly, of course, is wearing merch. Please hit the like, subscribe button and get involved in the show in the comments if you're watching live or if you're listening on Spotify later. We'll do our best to make sure that we're taking you guys through stuff on this week's show. I'm going to quickly cover off on that great Sharks comeback versus the Raiders and see where that sits versus all-time Sharks comebacks. Matty Williams, who's off for a couple of weeks, has given us his list of the top 5 Sharks comebacks. We're going to do a Sharks season report card and see where we're sitting, how we're feeling after 4 weeks. Chris is going to take us around the league because I guess we've got to watch some matches that are not Sharks ones this week. We're going to talk about the top 8, who comes in and out. We're going to talk about the chairman update. Franco's given that a good read. And then we'll talk about Jets and Josie Flagan and anything else we might have on this week's show. It's just 2 hosts with me this week. Franco, Chris, welcome to the show. Franco was in great form on the debrief, recounting and providing insight on Raiders match. Chris, 1 week, or not even 1 week on, 2 days on. How are you feeling about that great comeback?
Yeah, it was great. It was unfortunately I did tip the Raiders, as we all know, and had a bit of money on the Raiders, being I thought they're the better equipped team in the forwards. 18-0, a bit disappointed, and then all of a sudden we just came firing out of nowhere. So I was just excited. Like, what a win. Amazing. Wish I was at the ground.
It was funny, the actual being at the ground. It didn't have the same energy as the Sharks back and forth. We're ahead, we're behind, we're ahead, we get ahead, it's equal. We kind of jagged the win at the end. Like it was, we were down by heaps and then suddenly it was 18-all and then I don't know, suddenly we looked like we were just winning.
Those tries came through pretty rapid fire, I suppose. But yeah, that would have maybe sparked the crowd a bit more. I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't the most
like, we were down. Yeah, we were down 18-0. Like after 20 minutes, it looked like it could have been anything. We thought, oh no, here we go. We're going to get absolutely rubbed out here. And then all of a sudden, cameras just stopped and we just turned on an absolute tap and just went on fire. It was unbelievable.
Did you buy your grand final tickets, Chris?
Yeah, I believe.
Did you notice Tapua and Williams at all, Kelly? Do you think that they were part of that tide turning? Do you think it was a bit of our guys stepping up off the bench?
Yeah, it was more the concern of what I said last week, and Boldo sort of mentioned on the debrief with Hazelton probably running a bit too long in the tooth. That first 20 minutes that the Levi tried into the post was right up against him, and you could see he was just struggling at that stage. I sort of like had to look twice to Kafusi change his hairstyle again, so I had to try and work out who was who on the field for a little bit. But
we didn't talk about that hairstyle, did we?
Worked. Yeah, yeah. And again, the big talking point obviously is Iro out of the team. Like it looked like his first touch where he sort of Nico gave him the filthy eye of you better catch that next time, and then all of a sudden, I heard someone liken him to the next Val Holmes coming out of the Sharks. Very similar look. Obviously got a nice try out of it. Looks pretty athletic, it was the question we posed last week. If he has a good game, what happens with Talakai?
Yeah, I thought Iro was interesting in that you look at his stats, he was heavily involved, but if I was watching it, paying attention, it didn't seem as though he went looking for the ball. It didn't seem like he was coming infield or going across the field to try and chase the ball and get involved or like you notice Talakai when he's playing in that same position. He's
Talakai's
everywhere
a
on the
senior
field.
member.
This
Senior
is
member
true.
of the team, Franco.
But like what I mean is the
Heroes.
stats were still good. Iro's stats were still good for someone who didn't go, chasing the ball. He still got heavily involved. He still got good numbers, and it was sort of a bit of a shock, right? It was a little bit of a. Was he involved? And you look at, he's got a try assist, he's got a try, he's got over 100 meters running meters. He was involved. He was good.
He's not displacing Talakai as a centre, Franco.
Yeah. I kind of like it. It was when we played the trial and Euro was playing the trial and Dan came on our show and mentioned his stats afterwards. And you're like, where did he pull 186 meters out of? And like, you didn't notice him. And I suppose because it's not like Talakai where he's those bullocking sort of runs, goes looking for the ball, things like that, where he come in over our back end. I think he just went out and did his quiet job. And you're like, oh, wow, his stats are unbelievable. Like, he's now talked as a super coach stud, but it's again, we'll see what Fitzy does in the next couple of weeks, obviously, with players coming back in, a bye, nice rest week, and see what happens from here. He's got a nice headache ahead of him, I think.
The Talakai meters, though, when he hits it up from within the Sharks' dead ball, when 5 players from the other team are trying to tackle him, I'd argue that those 8 meters are a little bit more valuable than 30 meters of other players when they take the 4th hit up, or when the players are a little bit, So, yeah, that's not discount our main man this week. But yeah, g'day, Dave. Yeah, we're going to miss the Sharkies this week. We might actually watch the Waratahs.
The what?
Well, we got to watch something. We're gonna talk about what we're going to watch.
Is that on TV somewhere? Is it? How do you watch it?
Is that rugby thing? Is that rugby thing still going? All right. Well, look. Anything else from the Raiders match, Chris? Before we close that out on what was one of the great Sharks wins.
Well, obviously the talking point now is, Ricky always has a bit of a whinge about something, and they've now lodged an official complaint to the NRL about Daniel Holdsworth running past Jamal Fogarty trying to slot one from the sideline. But, watching on TV, I could kind of hear a few voices that sounded like you from the background. There's obviously our big fan down the front that obviously gets on the fence and yells out and tries to put him off. So I don't think a Daniel Holdsworth, if you're liking it to a goal swing, it probably puts him off. But yeah, if it's like a goal swing and you don't want someone running behind you, it's probably a bit bad. But I caught it live and had a little snigger to myself and thought it was pretty funny. And I couldn't believe it, but he hit the upright. And they've tried to compare it to they compare it to I think it was a Parramatta trainer ran across in front of Cleary, but he was literally running across the front of the goals. And he copped a $5,000 fine. But, I don't think Holdsworth running 5 minutes behind the player really going to put him off. So we'll see what comes out of it.
You've got people running up and down the sideline all the time, right? Whether it's cameramen or ball boys or whatever.
That was a planned move.
You got people like Boldo behind you yelling in your ear. What's the difference between a guy running past when you got fans literally? He's in front of the member stand. He's in front of our ET stand.
If that's what it takes to put someone off kicking their goal, we should do like the basketball and give everyone those sticks to wave.
Giant heads.
Just wave it all and go hell for leather. See what we can do.
We'll get Boldo and Vuvuzela. We'll bring them back.
We tried the Vuvuzelas numerous times. Look, I think he definitely he was skirting around the edge of the rules. And I applaud Paul Gallen for saying, Daniel Holdsworth was just going to be worried about, getting bollocked by the coach. And that is absolute rubbish. Daniel Holdsworth knew exactly what he was doing and thought, I could push this a little bit here. I'm going to get away with this. So let's give him the match ball. But other than that, what a great result.
The match ball. You know who didn't get the match ball?
Who?
After a couple of weeks, was Nico Hines getting 0 points, which was a bit of a shock. I thought he had a pretty good game.
That was probably his best game.
Yeah, we had a bit of a laugh about it. We had a bit of a laugh about it. There's been the memes and all, but this time he actually deserved some recognition. Played really well. And McKinnon got a bag.
McKinnon, you mean McInnes?
McInnes, thank you.
Ronnie got a couple of points.
Yeah, Ronnie got a couple. Jack got a couple.
I thought Jack Williams had quite a good game when he came on. I thought he turned it. some of his defense certainly made a big difference. So I think that's probably right.
So it's
that's
Cam,
right.
Cam
Dave.
6, Jack Williams 2, Blake Brayley 2, Ronnie 2.
Brayley.
And you're right, Dave. 0 points for his best game. Well, who knows? I think the Daily M just worked out that it was just ridiculous. All right. Well, look, it was an absolutely terrific and brilliant Sharks comeback. So it has prompted us this week for us to go back and look at some of the great Sharks comebacks. We threw up a post in some of the social channels and on our page. We often do that. If you would like to get involved in our show, you can sometimes see a teaser or influence kind of what was going on. So in the absence of our regular historian, I'm going to have to try and do this myself somehow. So let's just give this a try. We're going to hit share there. And then there we go. The greatest Sharks comebacks, a history lesson with not Matt Williams. However, Matt Williams has given us his collection of the 5. So we're going to do our best to try and remember these and actually remember exactly what happened. So if anyone wants to provide us with a little bit of help, we'll do our best. But yes, the 5 greatest ever Sharks comebacks. I think we want some music for this, don't we?
Bit of hip hopping.
I think we can play the only song that you would want to play. All right, the 5 greatest Cronulla Sharks comebacks of all time. Regular resident historian Matt Williams, who is absent today. Coming in at number 5 was the round 17 2016 clash versus the Eels, and I certainly remember this one. So we went down 18-0 early on in this one, and then I remember just thinking, I just thought we would just come back quite easily. And so we jagged, what was it? I think it was 2 tries to Sasaya Feki. And then I think, what was it in the end? 34-24, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound about right, guys?
We need Williams here.
We certainly do, don't we? Like, I do remember this. Yeah, it was 34-24 is what it was. And yeah, it was tries to who got the chocolates for us? I'm just trying to remember.
Jared Beale, Feki, Latelli.
And Beale, Feki, and Latelli. That's right. And that's why I put Feki in the things. Yeah, the team, Barber, Bird. Yeah. And
I think this is the game that Paul Gallen spoke about when he sort of realised he had a few young blokes at the back and they're all laughing and giggling in Barber and Bird and Val Holmes. And he said, "What's going on, guys? Concentrate." And they said, "We've got this gal. Don't worry about it." And he was like, "Oh, okay." Like they had no stress on them whatsoever. They had so much high confidence that team are going to come back. No fear. Like, "We got this, mate. We're going to win." And they were right.
Michael Gordon played for Parramatta that day. Bevan French, 3 tries. What a hero.
Yeah.
And then, it was Valentine Holmes was injured. So Gerard Beale was named at centre and then Ricky Latelli came into the team. I can't imagine that Ricky Latelli would have played wing in that match. And then a few changes with Pryor replacing Tagatese. So that was around about when Tagatese started dipping out of the team. I think we actually went top of the league after that match. And it was the 12th win in a row, which was the club record. But yeah, I thought that one was absolutely never in doubt. So 5th on the score of all-time great Sharks comebacks. All right, next one. Round 16, 2010 versus the Cowboys. Chris, do you remember this one?
No, I do not. I'm terrible. I don't even know who that guy is. No, I'm joking. It's John Morris.
Oh, well, that guy's definitely...
That was just a poke at Franco. I do
definitely
not remember
John
this
Morris.
either.
So we're 18-0 down at this one at halftime, and then we actually won it in Golden Point through John Morris and Trent Barrett field goals, which just seemed absolutely ridiculous.
Now it's flashing back. Trent Barrett did kick a lot of field goals that season.
Tim Smith played in that team for the Sharks. Tries to Paul Ayton, Nathan Gardner, Isaac Gordon, legendary Shark and fan of this show, Ben Pomeroy. So that was on the list. Franco, what can you tell us about that one? Can you remember anything?
I can't remember anything about this game. I'm sort of getting flashbacks from other games that we may talk about later on, dishonourable comebacks, not to give anything away, but I don't really remember this one. And I'm sort of struggling with, I know the list, I know what's happening, but there was nothing's coming up with this one for me.
Fair enough. All right, well, on to the next. I definitely remember the next one. So the next one was absolutely brilliant. So people were saying that it was against the Manly Seagulls, but it was actually the Northern Eagles. And 18-0 down at halftime. The Sharks absolutely tore it up and just scored an absolute mountain of points. With Peachy, Riak, Chris Beattie, Dean Bosnich, Nick Graham and Nutley. And I remember Kamali kicking a whole bunch of goals. And Matt Johns played in that team. Bickerstaff. Paul Gallen was a late inclusion. Danny Nutley, Tristan Bosnich, and Brett Sargent. I don't remember too much about Brett Sargent. This one was actually nominated by Andrew Bolderman, actually put this one in. And he said this was the greatest Sharks ever come back against the Northern Eagles. I reckon neither of you guys remember anything about this match.
I do.
All right, shoot.
I was working this game, and the club had a pretty healthy crowd in the club. And there was a bit of depression, bit of gummy Sharks, rubbish, useless team, who supports them kind of antics going on, and then just exploded as the team turned it around, and it was a pumping great day at Sharkies. It was really good. I don't remember much about the game, but
well, I watched this on delay around at Mama Latz's house, Latz's mum's house, and he knew the result and sat there and watched it. As I was in absolute anguish in the first half and ready to kick the cushions and walk out the door. And he said, just wait. And remember, watch the second half. I was just blown away that a team could come back from that kind of scoreline. Like, we got to remember, this is 2002. Rarely happened. Those kind of scorelines are pretty much end of story. Whereas today, 18 points is, 3 tries in 5 minutes isn't unheard of. But back then it was, I was like, oh, we're gone. And then all of a sudden.
More unusual, wasn't it? That's
very unusual, comebacks, that kind of era.
Yeah, that's right. In 2002, we were still holding on to that kind of era of making the prelim final all those times in a row. We're still hoping that,
Let's not flash there.
Nick Graham was still in the team actually at that point. So, never mind. All right, well, look, we know which the next one. The next two are obvious. They're coming next. Round 16 versus the 2014 versus the Brisbane Broncos. We were 22-0 down, which was our largest ever comeback for all of a week because we know what happens next. The Sharks were down, 22-0 down, came back to win 24-22 through a Todd Carney-inspired display, which was his last match forever for us, wasn't it, with Todd Carney?
It was. Something happened down at a pub somewhere.
Sharks outs, Gardner, Ashford, Bryce Gibbs. Todd Carney, what is just upsetting. Paul Gallen played front row, Siosei Avave, Luke Lewis, Anthony Tupou, Wade Graham. And I just remember this match. We were just an absolute rubbish team in 2014, weren't we? We were absolute rubbish. And so I remember...
we didn't get the spoon out of it, so...
Hey?
I said we did get a spoon out of it, so...
We did get the spoon. I remember watching this one. I was in Circular Quay at a bar, actually, and just thinking, how the hell are we remotely even coming back in this at all? But, good luck to us. Franco, what have you got for us? What's your recollection of this one?
Oh, well, obviously we were a basket case that year. I think that was the epitome of glass half full for me that year. Was no matter how bad we were going, every game, I thought, all right, we could do this. Why can't we do this? Let's have a crack. Let's see what happens. Every half time, I'd be like, well, we're not going great, but hey, maybe we can do something. And it was like this game that justified those thoughts. This game gave me that. That's why I'm allowed to have those sorts of glass half full moments. And it was like, wow, how good was this? What a comeback. We had our backup coach in Peter Sharp, who was also his last game coaching the Sharks. He
just hung it up and gave up after that, didn't he?
It's just the Sharks are a basket case. I don't want any part of this. Too much going off. Thanks, but no thanks. See you later. So it was just such an uplifting moment for what was such a droll season. It was just, yes, boys, we've got some fight in us. Let's do this. But it was good.
And then we know what happened the next week. And then
it was what else could go wrong at that stage?
What else could go wrong? And then 1 week later, the Sharks, after the horrendous departure of Todd Carney, which is a story for another time, which we will cover another time.
And the coach.
Sharks down, what was it, 24-0 against the Roosters.
Sponsors.
No sponsors. No, just absolutely no hope at all. With 2 tries to Jacob Gagan, Sasai Feki, Wade Graham, Jeffrey Robertson, even though that's not his name. And yeah, 5 from 5 for Michael Gordon. Got the Sharks home. I remember the kicks actually being really important in that match and thinking Gordon was going to get us home. And yeah, Franco's man, Farmono Brown.
Yeah, baby.
5-8 in that one. I remember not going to this one. Chris, where did you watch this one?
I was out to dinner, I believe, for someone's birthday and saw the score, and I couldn't believe it. And then watched the score roll in as the Sharks came back and was just blown away at what had happened as the score kept ticking over and ticking over and ticking over. It's burned into my memory is that picture. Probably the better photo is the whole team watching the video ref as, I think Franco said it today, Gagan held up the last attempt by the Roosters to score. It went upstairs to the video ref for a winning try, which was a no try. And just that team just letting out that emotion and that cheering, like an absolute team of bit parts, like we said, like no sponsors. We lost our talented multi-million-dollar half. We lost our coach, our second coach for the season, and couldn't believe we're down, what was it, 24 or 26-0? What was the comeback?
It was
24-0 at one stage, I believe.
Against a
halftime was
24-6.
Yeah, no Paul Gallen in that team.
No Paul Gallen. This was
Rona was lock. We had Anthony Tupou, Wade Graham, Bryce Gibbs. Luke Lewis was out. Heinington was out. Yeah, we're missing a whole bunch of forwards.
An absolute bit part of a team. And just coming back from that stage.
It was crazy. The James Shepherd coach, as you said, third
Bill
option.
Was in that team for the Roosters.
Yeah. So so he came out. He'd obviously had a long history with the club, coaching the under-20s before moving up to become a assistant coach. So he had a good understanding of the club and what we could do. And I think he not to say that, since we did it a week before that we couldn't do it, but he was, I remember that commentary that's played fairly often about Sterlo saying that James Shepherd should retire with the best record ever. He did a good job with the team. And I think, as the season progressed, he started bringing in some of those juniors that he'd coached in 20s, such as Holmes, and gave them a bit of a sniff so that we could sort of get a bit of an understanding of what we had, and they sort of blossomed to what we had in 2016. So it was good game.
And then the next week, look, we've got a dishonourable mention here, because the next week in round 18, backing up from those 2 miracle wins, the Sharks are playing at home versus the Newcastle Knights on a sunny Sunday afternoon, and Cronulla personified. The Sharks race to an 18-0 lead in front of 17,000 fans. And then what happens after that, Chris Kelly?
Capitulation.
As the Sharks are defeated 31-18 by the Cronulla Sharks. It's kind of funny, isn't it? A couple other mentions. There was the one in 2015 when we were down 18-0 versus the Cowboys. And then there was the other one where we were 13-0 down at halftime versus the Dragons. I think, Chris, that's one of your favourite ones, isn't it, that Dragons one?
Yeah, it's one of my favourites. Of course it is.
Why do you like that
one? We do the Dragons. Well, twice in that season we were down 13-0 and 12-0 and came back to win and had a 2-0 record in that season. So it was fantastic. But I think our other mention, obviously, Franco would like us to have the greatest comeback was last season against Manly.
Yeah, it would have been so good. Such a shame that we didn't get that.
Yeah,
if you recall, we were mid-conversation and weren't even really watching the game with 20 minutes to go, and all of a sudden they went, "Oh, they scored! Oh, yeah, they scored! Hang on, we're in contention here. What's going on?"
Hang on, we can actually win this.
We started doing the math and we're going to win this.
And then as soon as we started looking like we would win, we lost. And then Will Kennedy blew it by kicking or doing some mistake on the last play.
Chipped through instead of going through the hands. Bit of blood rush to the head, and we could have had that record of greatest comebacks ever in the NRL. Oh well.
Which would have been fitting. Anyway, never mind. All right. Well, look, the Sharks obviously have the bye next week. So we are going to do a little bit of a kind of season report card, really, in terms of the season so far. What we think of the Sharks' performances 4 matches in. Give Chris and Franco a moment to compose their thoughts and give them the chance to think about, well, has it gone how we thought, and what grade are you going to give the Sharks? So, Chris, we're going to start with you. Don't give us the grade so far. Give us your description of the season so far, and then hit us with your grade, A to F, obviously with the plus or minuses in there. How do you think the Sharks are faring?
At the start of the season, we went through this, and I really thought, honestly, that we'd be 4-0 and top of the table, sort of where we are right now. Although we are 3-1, I thought the Warriors was probably the one we're going to let slide, and the other ones we were going to win without certainty. Whereas we lost to the West Tigers, who are obviously running a little bit hot at the moment. We didn't expect that. Not just lost, but we absolutely got our ears beaten off. So we're sort of where I thought we were going to be going into the bye. Entrenched in the top 4. I think one little loss there, a little asterisk. And I think we're doing quite well. Obviously, our attack's coming along. Like I said, I'm not too excited about a very slow start so far. Normally, it's the opposite way, but this season seems to be we're very slow in that first 20 minutes. So I can see that's where we need to improve. But it's kind of predicted where I thought we would be coming into the bye. I do love a double points game, so we've obviously established that by winning this week and going to the bye for another 2 points. So we can't move out of that 4th position. A grade, I'd probably look at giving us probably a B- at this stage. Like I said, it's probably just that glaring point where I'd like to go to an A if we were starting a lot better. But, we started 12-0 down to the Warriors. We started 18-0 down to Canberra. We were obviously only 6-0 up against West, but then went into halftime behind as well and didn't catch up in that game. So I think, where we are is where I expected, but, I'd like to start a little bit better.
It's B-.
B- for me.
Franco?
Yeah, I mean, as we sort of touched on before the first ball was kicked, everyone was talking about that soft draw, and everyone was talking about how easy the Sharks would have it. So that it'd be lying if I didn't say I had some kind of expectation that we would be up, certainly influenced by all that talk, that we'd be up towards the top for the beginning. But I think as it's shown, being beaten by the Tigers and chasing our tails to get up on the Raiders, competition's tough. And I think we've done well to get where we are. That Tigers one was a real sort of kick in the teeth. I think we sort of saw a lot of fans blowing up Deluxe off the back of that one, and calling that the sky was falling and what do we do and how do we do this. But really, that was a blip, I suppose. We did get a bunch of injuries through that match, and really were like good old fashioned ambush from the Tigers. So hopefully we've learnt from that and put that behind us. But it was a good win against the Warriors. It was a good win against the Raiders. The Bulldogs was probably what you would expect, right? It was just sort of going through the motions, but playing hard. I think our attack is not looking as good as it has in previous seasons. We've certainly looks as though we've focused on defense and where whether they're scoring on us or not, that it looks like the structures are in place. There's covering players. We're doing well there, but our attack, it's crazy to say because we've been scoring plenty of points, but just as far as those preset plays are concerned, there seems to be a lot less of that coming off, and it's more a little bit of individual brilliance or flair from a couple of players that managed to get us over the line. So from an attacking perspective, I think watch this space. A lot of the commentators and a lot of fans are happy to point to the previous seasons and the number of points that we've got at the moment in each game. But I think if we come up against a team that defends really well, we might surprise ourselves, find it's really difficult to score. So that's a bit of a concern. But ultimately, yeah, I think we're doing well. I think we're probably, I don't know if it's a B-. That's a bit harsh. I think, I think we're doing well. I'd go with a B+.
B+ from Franco.
Positive.
Well, look, I agree with your sentiments there, Frank. I think the attack is certainly not as good this season. So that is quite telling, despite the fact that we scored all those points. What was it? 36 points on the weekend. It wasn't like we have those sweeping backline moves, and we have, a whole bunch of times where they're throwing it to the wrong person. One of those tries was just a brilliant individual piece of play from Nico Hines, a big cutout pass, and then a couple of times we got it to the wingers, and they got us the tries. And so there's no teamwork in terms of the attack. There was the nice kick from Kennedy with Ronaldo. So I feel like the attack has certainly gone back a lot, and I don't think the defense has improved that much. So I'm going to, looking at it, we lost to the Tigers, who were the wooden spooners last year, and you say, well, maybe the Tigers are better than we expected. And so, you look at the teams that we played. We beat the Warriors, who were 2 from 2. The Bulldogs have only won 1. We beat the Raiders. Sure. I'm a C-. I'm not convinced on the Sharkies just yet. I have that emotional fragility. We had a player go down. We just can't seem to deal with adversity. So we just
would your rating have changed a lot if we'd have beaten the Tigers?
Yes.
So one game.
If we beat the Tigers,
your adversity, we didn't have a forward pack against a Canberra team who was a massive forward pack. That was my concern and my reason for tipping.
Did the Sharks win it or Canberra Raiders blow it? They just started dropping the ball.
A bit of both. A lot of our tries were, bounce the ball went our way this time. It was Trindle had enough and just went himself. And then obviously the one going into halftime was a chase through and a couple of kicks, and the referee got in the way. But they're a good team, Canberra, and we were down 18-0 without a forward pack. We literally didn't have a prop Hazelton, who was obviously in Kafusi, but Hazelton normally plays his little impact role. We didn't have 5 of our established forwards, and we went out and come back from 18-0. So I think you'd bump up.
Yeah, but we know the Sharks' second-tier forwards are just as good as the starting ones, and so we got on top of them as soon as Jack Williams went on.
Yeah.
And Tapua. But look, we're fourth, so we're in the same position that we're always in. We're kind of just pretty good, but
we did say this.
Kind of
nice, easy draw will get us through.
Nice, easy draw, 3-1, $19 to win the premiership. Yeah, I'm just not convinced yet. We just don't seem to be clicking into gear, but we don't want to be clicking into gear right now. We want to have improvement. And I said, how good are the Sharks going? They're blowing teams off the park. No, we want to build towards the end of the season. I'm going to say this to you, Cronulla Sharks. C-, be better. All right. Chris.
What's the average then across us three? What's the average then? What do we get then? A B?
B+, B-, C-. That makes us in between a B- and a C+.
Nice.
So C+ seems to be the score, which I think is probably a fair score. All right, let's do the league roundup, Chris. Given you are the man who watches more football than anyone I know, and look, you have lost your voice this weekend. You were away as well, so we might give you a little bit of it. How much of the league did you actually catch up over the weekend, and what do we need to know about the Sharks fans who may not have watched any other matches?
No, I watched all the games as usual. Obviously, the biggest talking point out of the first game was the obstruction rule reared its ugly head with my favourite player, Wera Hargraves, running about 25 metres through the line and still getting called for an obstruction after he ran into, or Dylan Edwards ran into him. So obviously Graham Ansley came out and said that was incorrect. And I don't know why we have a bunker if he's not involved in said bunker, because they're not supposed to be at the ground. But anyway, that's a whole other. It should be going to New York like we do in the NFL, but that's a whole other issue. The next one is obviously we touched us. We're sitting in the top 4, but the surprise packet is the Dolphins are now sitting number 1 on the table. So we'll see how that goes, because the Tigers are 6th, Sharks are 4th, Dolphins 1st. I'm sure everyone's a bit shocked by that. So we'll see what happens out of that. Not too many more injuries over the weekend. Luckily, we saw a hip drop from young Galvin from the West Tigers, who had a pretty good game. Obviously, the West Tigers upset Parramatta again and continued their merry ways in a 17-16 thrill with Gutho spraying the ball wide at the last play of the game. And Benji Marshall, as a part-time coach, going 2-1 so far in the season. The other news that came out of today was Zach Lomax has been granted a release at the end of the season or allowed to negotiate with other clubs, leaving St George Illawarra. Flano was sort of adamant he wasn't going to let any person go, including Ben Hunt or Zach Lomax, unless other players come in. But obviously he put his foot down, and the $850,000 price tag probably eases their salary cap issues. Other than that, there's not much else going around the league.
$1,000 player, is he? So
he's not. He doesn't want to play wing. He wants to play centre. Yeah. I've always said that you don't want to get your salary cap out of shape. We've talked about that, about salary caps before. So probably a good move. You're losing a disgruntled player and freeing up that sort of cash. So we'll watch this space and see where he heads to. Other than that, the games are pretty good on the weekend. Obviously, Easter long weekend. We'll see what happens out of this week.
How did they get done?
They started really well in the first 5 or 10 minutes. Obviously, Turbo set up a try. It was down here at Wollongong where the weather's changing right now a little bit, but it was a sunny Saturday down here, and we thought, oh, this could be anything for Manly, and then just it was pretty much what you said. What we were doing, they just weren't slick. There were balls flying out off the back, out wide. It was just balls were being dropped left, right, and centre. There was mistake-a-thon, and the Dragons just held on, just wheeled their way to a 20-12 victory. So it was quite a bizarre game, but everyone expected Manly just to turn it on and do it again. But we're 3-1 and they're now 2-2. Everyone was talking Manly is the team to beat, and they're in trouble.
They were my pick for the dark horse. I still think they are.
They looked average as, very average. It was kind of like us versus the Tigers. They looked terrible.
It just seems in the NRL at the moment there is major inconsistencies with all of the teams, which is probably what they want rather than the years where you just have a clear top 8 and then just rubbish.
Typical first month performances, though, I suppose.
I guess that's probably right. All right. Anything else in the league roundup, Mr. Kelly?
That's about it out of the league roundup right now. There's not much else going on. Obviously, the team list dropped today. We had the long weekend with the public holiday, so we'll see what comes out of this weekend. Cameron Munster's back for the Storm, so then he'll get full strength. Interesting to see how they go.
There were some fun April Fool's jokes, I thought, around rugby league, actually.
There was a Ben Hunt one where it said he was released. Yeah. There was a Ben Hunt released from the Dragon. Ben Hunt released from the Dragons. So we'll see how that goes. But
is there a Cameron Munster's going to the Dolphins immediately one?
I didn't see that one. He was supposed to do that before he re-signed with the Storm. So that's an interesting one.
Maybe that actually wasn't a fake one, and actually that was real, and he is going at the end of the season.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, let's go on to. I think it is probably timely for us to just have a look, and we'll each go. I'm going to just share screen and just put up the top 8 on the screen here for you guys so we can see that. There it is, the top 8 as it stands right now, with the Dolphins on top of the NRL table, with the Panthers, Cowboys, and the Sharks on all with 3 wins each. And actually, I'll start off with you, Franco. Who comes in and out of the top 8? Is that how it ends, or which teams do you think are going to make their way into the top 8 by the end of the season?
I think there's going to be a fair bit of shuffling with what we've seen here. Dolphins at the top there with the bye, don't forget. I think they're going to dribble down, although I do think they've improved on last year. The Bunnies, which I think, Kelly predicted round 1 that they would be struggling and that there could be, 6 rounds in still looking for that first win. They've finally got that first win, so maybe that gives them a week or 2 of relief from the press, but they're struggling. I think they're not looking crash hot, so they're probably not going to move up. Obviously, the Broncos are too good a side at the moment. They're gonna push into the 8. The Warriors, I expect to do a bit better, but I don't think they'll be as dominant as they were last year. The Tigers, I'd love to drink the Kool-Aid on that one, but I think the Tigers, they're not going to stay there. They might get their regular 9th. And I'm also not sold on the Raiders. I think they're they're going to be one of those Ricky Stewart teams that work really hard, try really hard, lose by a bunch of games by 4 points or less, and just miss out on the 8 as well.
All right, that's Frank. So you're saying Broncos in, Warriors in, Tigers and Raiders out.
You're correct.
And then what? Dolphins out as well.
Dolphins probably out as well. Yeah.
So who goes in for them?
Seagulls.
Fair enough, Chris.
Yeah, I reckon that's about right. The Dolphins are sort of like us. They've got a nice draw at the moment. You can sort of see from that $51 price of winning the premiership. The Panthers are obviously cruising along without Nathan Cleary sitting at second, so nothing's knocked them over. The Storm, like I said, are getting their players back, so they're going to be entrenched. I see the Raiders still, like Franco said, that sort of up, down, left, right, centre. The Eels are probably in the same spot as last year. I did predict South to be in this position, and I don't think they're actually going to crack that top 8. I think there's more problems, and I watched that game on Good Friday. If the Dogs probably played a better game or held the ball a little better, they probably knocked over South in that game. So for mine, it's probably Raiders, Tigers are playing on a bit of, steel at the moment, and the Dolphins are probably the ones dropping out. I'd say Warriors, Seagulls, and definitely the Broncos. I think it's a bit of a false place. They're sitting there in 12th at 2-2, but I could see them like they're humming along, and they're only just got a couple of players
Reynolds
out.
is injured.
He played last week, and they beat and they beat the Cowboys, who I tipped the Cowboys and thought they're pretty hot team. I thought they were going to come back, but obviously the Broncos have just got that all class. So I don't see. I've watched more of the Knights. Last season they're there where they were last season and just had an absolute hot streak on the back end, and I don't see them doing that again this season. They're in a bit of a hurt as well. So yeah, that's pretty much how the top 8's going to go.
All right. Well, my hot tip, I reckon the Dolphins will make the top 8. I think Bennett is a class coach. Franco made the comment last week was, everyone's saying, the Dolphins need to sign star players. I'm like, well, actually, maybe they got some star players already and their young guys are going to come good. I think Dolphins will be fine. I don't rate the Raiders or the Roosters. They're the two teams for mine. And you look at it. Look, I know it's 4 matches in. But yeah, I just can't see the Raiders making it through to the semis. And so I think you'll find the Seagulls will take one of those spots. And I actually don't mind the Tigers either. They're actually better than you think. So, yeah, I'm going to go safe choice. Roosters and Raiders out. Seagulls, Broncos in. Eels and Warriors will continue to struggle. I reckon.
Yeah, I could see the Dolphins sniffing around that 8th, 9th, 10th.
Why can't they make it?
I don't say they can't. I reckon they'll be sniffing around. It'll come down to a couple of results towards the back end, whether they sort of get in or out. I reckon, it was like Power and South last season. It was depending on results and how the last 3 games pan out. I can see the Dolphins doing that.
Fair enough.
And they're definitely a better team now than they were last year.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't have been hard. And then we're riding off the Dragons, Bulldogs, Knights, Titans, Rabbitohs. They're done.
Titans are shot.
I'm thinking about next year.
Yeah,
done. Absolutely done.
There's too much influence in the Bunnies to say their season's written off yet. I think they'll perform, but yeah, I don't think they're going to get in the 8.
Fair enough. All right. This week we had the Sharks AGM, and also we just had a lengthy update from the chairman. Franco is going to take us through a couple of things that he's learnt from the read through. He gathers his thoughts. Just to flag, I'm going to get my accountant in to take us through. I'm going to do a special video in the next week to actually go through the financials of the Sharks and explain the P&Ls and all of those sort of things, and give that the actual proper download and give that the airtime it deserves. We'll try and distill that down. It's on a 50-page document or something. I'm going to read that on the plane when I'm traveling to the States. So I'll give that a go. All right, Franco, what did you learn from the chairman's update?
Oh, mate, I'm as faithful listeners will know, I'm at half capacity on painkillers and doing my best. So I didn't get a lot of time to digest and go through this in the way as I normally would. But a couple of key call-outs that might have been missed by people who haven't read this and just go off main press. It looks as though the $5 million donation is over 5 years. So not sure how that breaks down, if that's $1 million a year
I
scenario
understand
or
it's $1 million. It's $1 million a year.
yeah. So that's good. Obviously, again, as we said when it was donated, never gonna turn down a donation. Never gonna be ungrateful. But when we're talking about what can we do with the money, it changes the dynamics of what you could do, because you're now not talking about what can we do with $5 million. You're talking about how do we manage just $1 million. So good, but not as good as everyone was sort of jumping up and down when the first announcement was made to the press. Well, I mean, theoretically, front of jersey sponsor is $1 million a season. So it's basically a front of jersey sponsor without worrying about being on the front of the jersey. So it's great. I'm not saying it's not, but in a world of hypotheticals, what do we do with the money? It changes what you're talking about. But yes, still very grateful. Thank you very much, Mr. Dorrell. His brother, Lucas Dorrell, has been added to the investment committee. He's part of the Store Group, a private equity business also out of the US. Don't know much about him, haven't had a lot of time to research him or his past, but obviously strong ties with Mike. Obviously strong in business, a lot of connections. Again, private equity can't be a bad thing to have more experience and knowledge around investing and powering on the Sharks to become stronger and greater. So that's all well and good. Off the back of that, the club is trying to benchmark themselves against other NRL clubs. They are, use their terms, looking to be a top 4 club on and off the field, which I really, really appreciate the sentiment there to try and be a powerhouse in the administration and making sure that we're kicking goals there. I do think it's one of those things that it's funny, depending on who you're talking to, they sort of say a leagues club or an NRL club is run differently to business. You've got to have business minds, but also rugby league minds. In that same vein, benchmarking against other NRL clubs is probably great, but also maybe we benchmark against other industries to sort of look outside the square and see if we can do something different or better than what's being done in the NRL at the moment. Still great ambition, great for the club to try and aim for that, and hopefully, we nail that one as well as we are doing on the field. There was a bit of update on the development of the grounds. The roof is complete, drainage is being worked on. Up next is the facade. There was a little bit of blurb about contracts again and working with the developer to try and work with this. No mention of dates in what I read, but as we speculated earlier on, probably think that it'll be 2025. I imagine. I don't think they're going to get this done this year, especially not this season. So I watch this space. We did have a bit of a joke about the Life membership when we were talking about number 1 ticket holder. That Life membership is going through a bit of a refresh with new framework looking to come in place to make that a bit more prestigious and make it a bit more of an understood formula of who and how and why you're a Life member. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. I'm not sure how you unwind or unpick what's been done in the past, but I certainly think something like a Life membership should be valued a little bit more and have a bit more tradition around it. So it's good to see that they're looking at that.
It's mine. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've all got one, buddy. So yeah, so
I reckon they're changing that just because of your pressure on them, Franco, from this podcast.
Of course, must be. But yeah, it's really good that that's getting looked at, and I think that's those sorts of things. From a fan perspective, building up creates that aura around a club, right? It's those sorts of things that give a club its prestige and give its members something to look at and aspire to. So it's good to see they're doing that.
And I think you can also tell the impact of the corporate governments and this group's working on this and this group's working on this, and so they're getting a better outcome from there.
certainly
True.
dotting their I's and crossing their T's. It's being really well received, I think, from the fans. You know, there was no opposition. They went through unopposed to be re-elected. A bit of continuity there, and why wouldn't you? They're doing a really good job. Couldn't tell you the last time we had a board that didn't have any knockers or naysayers against them. Even when we were on the way through to winning the 2016 premiership, there were still people talking about, we're not doing this right, or we're not doing that right, and we should have done this better. I don't really think there's a lot of people that have anything bad to say about current administration. I think they're doing a really good job and should be commended.
Other than that, you and I, Franco, should actually be the chairman and the CEO. But
we might do things a bit differently. I don't know if we're doing better, but if we get a chance, we'll see.
Fair enough. All right, that was a particularly good download. And as I mentioned, we are going to get the guys from Solve Accounting are going to come on and talk us through the P&L statement and the cash financial predictions of the Cronulla Sharks. All right, that was the chairman's update. All right, well, look, as we kind of look towards wrapping up this episode, it's I guess the thing to mention is, well, what are we doing this weekend? I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to WrestleMania, baby. So you will, if you are watching WWE and WrestleMania this weekend, keep an eye out for the first ever man who really, well, look, I'm going to claim it. I reckon I'm the reason why Australians wear football jerseys to wrestling, because I got on the TV so many times. So that'll be a good fun. So that's what I'm doing this weekend, and I'll be dialing in for the ET Stand podcast from New York for a couple of weeks. So that'll be good fun. I need to reach out to Michael Dorrell actually and try and watch a Shark Stand with him. That's a good idea. Michael Dorrell, if you're watching, I don't know, you're a regular viewer of the ET Stand. Let's have a beer and watch the Sharks. Chris, what are you up to? Easter show, anything?
No, staying out of the road of a upcoming hens party that's obviously going to be hosted at my place for a little bit. So I did offer myself as entertainment, but it was obviously knocked on the head with family and friends who know me quite well. So I tried. I'll obviously be sitting down with Zach and watching WrestleMania and trying to spot OU on TV, trying to ham it up as usual. So I'll look out for a Zach sucks sign again. So we'll see how we go and just watch the rest of the rugby league. And know we've got the 2 points in the bag. So
fair enough. All right. Well, yeah, I was away also. Otherwise, I would have been available. Who's getting married?
Tamara and David.
Oh, are they? Oh, how good.
Sharks fans, David. Yeah.
Oh, how good. Yeah, we love Dave. He's a lovely guy. That's how good.
Yeah.
Tansen. Oh, congratulations, Tansen. That's very exciting. They're a lovely couple. All right, Franco, what are you up to?
Well, Jersey Fleg's still on, so I might watch the kids run around. So that'll be good. And I think, those busted ribs, I'll be trying to not do much at all. So I might be parked in front of the TV watching the other rounds of NRL. We've got family out from the US, so they've come in the other direction, Boldo. Maybe they can help me out around the house and mow the lawn for me and do all that sort of stuff while I just lay back and watch the games.
Fair enough. Well, you'll certainly have fun doing that. And was there any takeaways?
We are kind of like the Sharks team, though, aren't we? Like we're all like,
oh, we are busted. We're missing Latz in
recovering from injuries. We're sick. Yeah, Williams is on the other side of the world.
Traveling places, suspended. Williams is remote.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the bye.
And we're on the bye. So, even this week, this show has been a little bit on the bye. So, I was going to mention, I thought Cade Dykes, I was really pleased with the write-up of Cade Dykes scoring and setting up another try in the Jets match. Franco, any mail out of the Flag or the Jets?
Well, Flag got belted last week by the undefeated Raiders, which is a bit of a shame, but I still think we've got a pretty strong Flag team. I think, we'll wash that one away, and I think we'll be there or thereabouts by the end of the season. Harold Matz and Tasha Gale made it through to the finals, so they're still playing. So let's cheer them on. Hopefully they do well. And the other teams have unfortunately ended their season early. But 2 of the 4 through, so that's pretty good.
Nice one. All right, Chris, anything else from you before we call it a show?
Was there any mention in that? I know we're talking about 97 Cronulla Street again, but was there any mention in those sort of minutes at a 97 Cronulla Street or anything like that?
There was, mate. What would you like in 94 Cronulla Street? What would you want there?
Oh, not another coffee shop.
Like another?
Cronulla, but let's go.
Would you like another coffee shop? Would you like another Thai restaurant? Would you like another gym? Because
there's that much repetitive stuff in the mall. It's a gym. All right, fair enough.
It's a gym. Yeah, 24/7 gym. Which it's a gym I'm not aware of. They seem to historically have focused their locations out in Western Sydney, so they've moved into Cronulla. All the best. Obviously, we want them to do well and stick around, because if they're going well, then we're doing well. But yeah, I was hoping for something a bit more exciting than a gym, but a tenant's a tenant, and it's better have someone in there than have it empty. So good job, guys.
Yeah, Don't they know that there's already a brilliant gym in Cronulla?
No, here it is. Here it is. Where is this gym, Boldo?
The Cronulla Youth Weight Training Association.
Have they updated the equipment since 1970 or not?
Yes, they have. There's brilliant equipment in there. They're well supported and well run by Dave Cohen and those guys that are down there. So it's the best gym in Sydney down there, and the $220.
I did quite enjoy when there was a gym. Months. There was a gym in the mall, and it was where the old Lowe's that we've all known since kids were in the mall, and it was an Anytime Fitness, and the front window literally faced the mall and so did the treadmill, so you could walk past and just wave at the people like exercising. Like it was quite, it was like that. It was bizarre.
There's several gyms in Cronulla. It's not lacking any gyms, but what?
Cronulla's one of the most populated, or once highly, per capita has got more gyms than anywhere else, or one of the highest places for gyms. So good luck. Yep, let's see how successful you are. Hopefully it all works out and they're in there forever. All right, well, that was the ET stand on the bye week for the Cronulla Sharks. The Cronulla Sharks sit equal fourth on points differential on the NRL ladder. We hope you all have a lovely, lovely weekend watching the other teams, in the NRL, and getting ready for, round 6, when the Sharks come back and continue on their not unbeaten run because they lost the damn Tigers, but on their successful season. Hopefully can improve their C+ grade. On lookout for things coming up on the ET stand. We will do that video that I mentioned with the accountants, and next week we will have the next edition of Boldo's Tears, who are the Sharks' top players right now. That's me, David Bolderman, for Franco and Chris Kelly. We'll see you next time.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite-level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.